don't fault the doctors, but I fault the lawyers and the legislators who think they know more than the doctors. Because these doctors' hands are tied. Our genetics counselor and palliative care say, if you decide not to continue with your pregnancy, MUSC cannot take care of you, but you can go out of state. Because I couldn't stay at our hospital here, and I had to travel out of state, and because there's so many women in my...
A very powerful piece. I thought that it had a very obviously timely message, but I thought that the subjects of the piece, I thought the women were very sort of putting themselves out there in a way that made them very endearing and made the piece very personal and intimate. And I thought that it was a very strong sort of not just emotional appeal, but logical appeal in terms of how stark and dangerous it is to create precedents in which the autonomy of anyone, women, men, anybody alive, their bodily autonomy is so easily overrun by government officials or bureaucratic officials. In this particular instance, it's obviously women in terms of the abortion issue. And I think the piece did a really great job of showing how this is. I think there's a framing in the discussion about the issue that makes it seem like it's a reckless choice or the result of reckless behavior. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the medical aspects in terms of why this is done, in terms of the varying degrees and situations in which an abortion would be necessary. That's beyond just sort of a personal decision or rape or incest. And I thought that the piece really did a great job in sort of crafting the medical backdrop of what was going on and with the personal stories of the women, which made it, I thought, a very powerful appeal in terms of how dangerous and inappropriate it is for this certain laws and precedents to be going on through each state, and how a sort of rife for future conflict and unintended consequences that raise up by creating these type of precedents. So I thought that the piece was very informative, had a great both emotional and logical appeal, and the subject of the piece in particular were really great in terms of creating a human center and compassionate center to an issue that creates so much vitriol, I think, from not just both sides, but from one side in particular. So I thought this was a very strong piece.
The message in this was super powerful, just making abortion a human issue and looking at it with empathy and seeing from the perspectives of these women and not putting yourself on two sides of a political spectrum and just listening to these people as a human being instead of, you know, confrontationally as, you know, left or right. I thought that was a really important take on abortion and this whole issue. Um, Hearing these women's testimonies, especially Ivy Grace's mom, was heartbreaking. And seeing the different ways in which they experienced this same procedure, one with, you know, it being outlawed in her state, and one experiencing the procedure when it was lawful in her state, and seeing how different that was for both of them and how much more traumatizing it was for her to have to move out of state and make arrangements to do it out of state. Um, I think hearing their personal stories was so much more powerful and effective, and it will be more powerful and effective in changing people's minds than hearing from politicians that usually the other side probably dislikes these politicians and automatically doesn't want to hear what they have to say. So I think hearing these personal testimonies and stories from people who've actually experienced and been in this situation is so much more powerful and so much more moving, just to hear this importance of bodily autonomy. So yeah, I think this documentary was amazing. It was heartbreaking, but it was really important to hear from these women.
This is after Roe versus Wade was overturned, and now she's living in a state that does not allow abortion. And so instead of having the support from the doctors, now it's no longer an option for her. And so to even go through this, she has to leave her state, she has to travel, she has to wait, she has to forego all these things that make this whole idea of holding, having a baby that you know is very likely to end up with a terminal illness with a very low chance of survival and suffering. And being in a state that is forcing you to have that anyway because your rights aren't represented and you don't have a choice. and you're making a decision that's already difficult enough, but then also having to wait just to be able to go through it. And it's this idea that people think that abortions that happen later in a pregnancy are a result of irresponsibility, and that's not always the case. It gives a new look at the discussion of pro-choice versus pro-life, because it puts a name and a face to someone who is going through the struggle. And it's a non-common discussion. You know, we talk about in cases of rape, and and sometimes what we talk about if it's a risk to the mother's life, but we don't talk about the quality of life for the infant. If the quality of life for the infant is going to put your infant in some sort of health turmoil, health crisis by seeing through the pregnancy, why isn't that a part of the discussion? And it's a humanity issue. You know, it's a woman's issue. It's not a political issue. And it has become this political issue of taking away the right to choose. And instead, it should be you allowing people to have the right to choose for themselves.
Knowing that these women had to, at least this one woman had to wait 2 weeks to get to a state that she could, she made the decision, her and her husband, on what they were going to do, the best decision they could make for them and their child. And then she had to wait 2 weeks. 2 weeks doesn't sound like a lot to some people for some things, but that's a long, 1 to 2 days is a long time to have to wait to carry out a decision like that. It's just painful. It's shocking, and it shouldn't be happening. We've really, really taken such a giant step back in history here. I just don't understand it. And in general, I thought this was a very professional, well done, great production value documentary, great pacing, great story, well written, well presented. I liked the stories. I liked the interviews. Just appalling, though. I mean, the whole message is great to put out there so that more people, and I hope this gets picked up and distributed, because more people need to see what's at stake here. Not, yeah, I'm not going to keep going on about the whole message of it. The message is obvious. It's a very powerful ending to this documentary as well. And I loved that she said this issue is not political. It's a humanity issue. And that you have to trust that women have to make these decisions for themselves and their child and their family.
It's a very powerful piece. It was very difficult to see these ladies going through this. That their sadness was, I could feel it while I was watching. They did a very good job of explaining the predicament. The movie was very well made. The interviews were conducted very well. Everybody spoke very well on camera. Everything made complete sense. The story-wise, it was well shot and well edited. But it's just very difficult. It was very hard. But it was a different corner of this debate that doesn't get discussed a lot. So it was good that this was brought up and made into a film like this.
The message here is super clear, super important. It's just presented really well in a way that absolutely just pulls at your heart. It's just so important, and I think a lot of people discuss the issue of abortion and Roe v. Wade being overturned, and sort of at a high concept level. So when we have a short documentary like this that's making it personal, explaining rare or somewhat rare condition that would, cause any rational person to want to terminate a pregnancy, it adds another just layer of specificity and just realism. I mean, there's lots of reasons to terminate a pregnancy, and this is one. I mean, I knew there were medical reasons and quality of life reasons for a baby. I didn't have a list things, so learning about this disease just was an eye opener, and really, again, just makes it personal. It just adds a layer of humanity to the issue, which I think is crucial when we're talking about women's rights and body autonomy, because it's too easy to just speak in general terms. So, for that reason, I'm glad this documentary exists. It's obviously absolutely crushing and unfortunate to be in that situation. But if, this documentary can help anyone see why, abortion rights are important, then um, it was worth it for them to put it together. They did a great job with it.
I could feel the pain and the struggle of the mother. She had to face a terrible decision, a terrible choice, a choice that no one should ever face. And then when she was there and she got the diagnosis, at the same time, when she decided to terminate the pregnancy, the new bill against abortion was approved in America, in our state. I think it was the documentary was very well made and really gave us a glimpse. Even though it's a short movie, it gave us a deep look into what's this political issue that America is facing right now in many states, and all these bills against abortion that keep getting approved, and it's really difficult if you, especially for moms and women, that they don't have the. It seems like they don't have the right anymore to do what they want with their body, and this is really hard to watch, honestly. And I think that the short film really got to the point quickly, but with a deep investigation, and I really felt all the struggles from the main characters, because now they had to face two different challenges. The child was surely going to be born with a terrible disease, and on the other side, the impossibility of just terminate the pregnancy. So I think the shot was very well done.